Single dad janitor solved a 100-hour crisis in seconds. The CEO's reaction left everyone speechless. Part 1. The Invisible Man in the Hallways. At Hendrix Technologies, a billion-dollar corporation known for its cutting-edge microprocessors, everyone walked fast, talked faster, and ignored the people who didn't wear suits. That included Ethan Cole, the night janitor. Every evening, when the executives left in their glossy black sedans, Ethan would quietly push his mop and bucket through the vast glass corridors of the 23rd floor. His blue uniform had a faded company logo, and his sneakers were worn, but his eyes held a quiet intelligence no one ever bothered to see. Most people didn't know that before he was a janitor, Ethan had been a systems engineer, one of the best. But life had a cruel sense of timing. When his wife Mara passed away from cancer, he quit everything to take care of his 6-year-old daughter, Lily. With bills piling up and no one to watch her during the day, the only job that fit his schedule was janitorial work. Nights cleaning the same offices where he once designed circuits worth millions. He didn't complain. He just worked. Every night he'd tuck Lily into bed with a smile, whisper, "Daddy will be home soon," and head out with his lunchbox and thermos. He wasn't invisible to everyone, though. Grace Turner, the CEO's assistant, always greeted him with a smile. "You know, Ethan," she said once, "you don't seem like the janitor type." He laughed softly. "I don't think there's a type for cleaning up after people." Grace grinned. "Fair. Still, you seem like someone who knows more than he says." Ethan just smiled, pushing his cart into the CEO's office to empty the trash. Part 2. The Crisis. One Monday morning, chaos erupted. At 8 a.m., the building was buzzing. Executives were sprinting between floors. The IT department was in meltdown mode. Engineers were shouting over each other, and phones wouldn't stop ringing. A critical failure had struck Hendrix Technologies' new Neurachip X1, a processor set to launch in 72 hours, one that already had $100 million in pre-orders. Overnight, the prototype chips began overheating during final stress tests, rendering the product unsafe and unusable. If the issue wasn't solved by morning, the company would lose its investors, contracts, and likely its reputation. The CEO, Victoria Hale, was pacing the conference room like a storm in heels. "How did this happen?" she demanded. "We've spent 3 years and $500 million on this chip. Tell me it's not a design flaw." The chief engineer stammered. We don't know yet. The thermal control algorithm keeps looping. The heat output spikes at random. We've tried debugging, but what?" Victoria snapped. "But no one can isolate the root cause. The data doesn't make sense." The room fell silent. A $100 million crisis, and no one had an answer. Part 3. The Accident. That night, while the exhausted engineers went home to rest, Ethan came in as usual, pushing his mop and bucket through the dimly lit hallways. When he reached the RD lab, he noticed something unusual. The doors were left open, screens still glowing with lines of code and diagnostic charts. Curiosity tugged at him. He stepped closer, scanning the graphs on the screen. Temperature spikes, feedback loops, unstable firmware code. His mind began to race. He recognized the pattern instantly. The problem wasn't hardware, it was the control logic. A single line of code, misplaced in the loop, was sending the chip conflicting commands to throttle and boost at the same time. It was a simple mistake, one he had seen years ago during his engineering days. He whispered to himself, "They're fighting their own algorithm." He sat down for a moment, fingers hovering over the keyboard. He knew he wasn't supposed to touch anything, but the solution was screaming at him. He opened a new window and quickly ran a simu. Part 2. The Janitor Who Changed the World. Chapter 1. A New Beginning. 6 months had passed since Ethan Cole's unexpected promotion. The once silent janitor now had an office with his name on the glass. Ethan Cole, lead systems analyst. But even as he adjusted to this new life, Ethan stayed grounded. He still arrived early, still greeted the cleaning crew by name, and still packed the same metal lunchbox with the peanut butter sandwiches Lily loved helping him make. Life had finally given him a second chance, and this time he wasn't wasting it. The Neurachip X1 had become the world's most efficient microprocessor. It powered everything from self-driving cars to hospital AI systems. Hendrix Technologies was dominating the market, and investors were calling it the miracle rebound. Victoria Hale, the CEO, credited Ethan publicly at every press conference. But Ethan didn't want fame. He wanted purpose. One late evening, as the rest of the team left for the night, Ethan stayed behind in the lab. He was tinkering with a prototype chip that wasn't part of any official project. A small, square wafer connected to a neural simulation circuit, something he'd been quietly building in his spare time. He called it the HeartLink. Its purpose? To allow machines to understand emotion, not through data points, but through human empathy mapping. A chip that could learn why people made choices, not just what choices they made. He smiled to himself, whispering, maybe this could change things again. What he didn't know was that his little side project would soon throw him into another storm, one that would shake the entire tech world. Chapter 2. The Storm Brews. 3 weeks later, Hendrix Technologies was preparing for a major merger with Arcus Global, a rival company known for aggressive takeovers and questionable ethics. The deal was worth $15 billion, and Victoria was under immense pressure from the board to close it. But Arcus had a hidden agenda. Their CEO, Leon Maddox, had his eyes on one thing: the proprietary code behind the neurochip. If he could get access, he could replicate it and destroy Hendrix from within. Victoria was cautious, but the board insisted. They wanted growth, not caution. Meanwhile, Ethan noticed unusual activity in the system logs. Files were being accessed remotely at odd hours. Code fragments were being copied, encrypted, and transferred to off-site servers. He brought his findings to Victoria immediately. "Ma'am," he said, placing a printout on her desk, "someone's trying to clone our architecture." She scanned the data. "Are you certain?" "Completely. They're using an internal proxy to mask the intrusion. If they get full access, they can duplicate the X1's design in days." Victoria's expression hardened. "Leon Maddox," she muttered. "He's already in our system." Ethan nodded. "I can stop it, but I'll need full clearance. And permission to use something I've been working on." "What is it?" Ethan hesitated. "A neural learning chip I designed, the HeartLink. It can trace data manipulation patterns by learning human decision behavior. It could identify who's behind the breach." Victoria raised an eyebrow. "You built that in your spare time?" He smiled faintly. "Old habits." She exhaled. "Do it, quietly. And Ethan, be careful. Maddox plays dirty." Chapter 3. The Digital Battlefield. For the next 48 hours, Ethan barely slept. He and a small, trusted team integrated the HeartLink chip into the company's cybersecurity core. Within minutes, it started detecting patterns invisible to traditional firewalls: subtle hesitations, decision delays, even mouse movement rhythms unique to human users. It didn't just see the hack, it understood the hacker. And then it found something shocking. The breach wasn't coming from Arcus Global's servers. It was coming from inside Hendrix Technologies. Someone in their own building was feeding data to Maddox's team. Ethan's.